Today we will be starting gastric motility and gastric emptying. Shall I start now? I'll start, okay?
Yes.
So before that, we will be doing the MCQs of previous class. The MCQs of the previous class. Now let's see the MCQs. You can tick on the correct answer, okay? The gas present in the fundus of the stomach is mostly due to fermentation, putrefaction, swallowing, and diffusion. Which is the correct answer? The gas present in the fundus of the stomach is mostly due to swallowing. Yes, swallowing is the correct answer. Which is not a function or action of pepsin. Which is not a function action of pepsin. Not. It activates pepsinogen to pepsin, a proteolytic enzyme, curdles milk, bactericidal effect. The correct answer is bactericidal effect. Right? Pepsin, it converts pepsinogen to pepsin. For conversion of pepsinogen to pepsin, pepsin is required. It is the proteolytic enzyme, it curdles milk. The correct answer is bactericidal. HCl as well as pepsin, both are required for conversion of pepsinogen to pepsin. Okay, HCl as well as pepsin, both are required for conversion of pepsinogen to pepsin. So the correct answer is bactericidal effect. Then third, pepsin optimal activity is seen at pH. How much? Pepsin optimal activity is seen at pH below 4.0. Okay, 1 is the correct answer. 1 is the correct answer. Right? Below 4, pepsin optimal activity is seen. Next is atrophy of gastric mucosa produces indigestion, hyperacidity, pernicious anemia, bleaching. Which is the correct answer? Atrophy of gastric mucosa, indigestion. Digestion will occur. Hyperacidity, it will not occur. Indigestion will not occur. There will be digestion. Though there is gastric atrophy, digestion process can occur. Okay. So the correct answer is pernicious anemia. Right? When there is atrophy of gastric mucosa, then the intrinsic factor is not secreted. When intrinsic factor is not secreted, the vitamin B12 is not absorbed. If vitamin B12 is not absorbed, then person suffers from pernicious anemia. Right? So the correct answer is pernicious anemia. Then true about gastrin. It increases secretion of pepsinogen, decreases gastric motility. Acid stimulates gastrin secretion. Its secretion increases after protein meal. True about gastrin. So if acid is more, gastrin secretion is less. It doesn't causes the secretion of pepsinogen, right? It causes secretion of pepsinogen, but it mainly causes its secretion mainly increases after protein meal. Correct answer 4. Okay. Correct answer is 4. Its secretion increases especially after protein meal. This is the correct answer. Okay, true about gastrin. All these three, 1, 2, and 3, they are wrong. Fourth is the right answer. Okay, its secretion increases especially after protein meal. There is two stimulus for the release of gastrin. Okay, there is two stimulus for release of gastrin. One is release of gastrin releasing peptide GRP from the vagus, and another is after the protein rich diet. Okay, so correct answer is answer 4. Correct answer is answer 4. Then raised gastrin levels without associated increase in gastrin secretion is seen in gastrinoma, G-cell hyperplasia, pernicious anemia, carcinoma of stomach. So carcinoma of stomach. In the carcinoma of stomach also, the gastrin levels are high. In gastrinoma also, the gastrin levels are high. In G-cell hyperplasia also, gastrin level are high. But in pernicious anemia, gastrin level is not high. Gastrin secretion is not high. In the correct answer is pernicious anemia. Okay, correct answer is pernicious anemia. Correct answer is pernicious anemia. So I will proceed to next slide. Right? Correct answer is pernicious anemia. In pernicious anemia, gastrin levels are increased. Right? Gastrin levels are increased without gastrin secretion. Next question. Which of the following is not a function of stomach? It is the reservoir of the ingested food, provides HCl for initial digestion of the proteins, release of food at a controlled rate into the duodenum, absorbs vitamin B12. It is not the function of the stomach. Vitamin B12 is absorbed from the small intestine. Okay, absorption of vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is absorbed from the intestine. Vitamin B12 is absorbed from the intestine. So next question. Not true about gastric juice. It is isotonic with plasma. Pure juice is 0.87. Contains the enzyme renin in infants only. Digest 20% of the ingested proteins. Not true about gastric juice. Not true about gastric juice. Yes. Fourth one is the correct answer. It is gastric juice is isotonic with plasma. The pure HCl is 0.87. It contains enzyme renin that is present in infants only, and mainly protein digestion occurs in the small intestine. Okay, so digest 20% of the ingested proteins. It is the incorrect answer. Parietal cells in the stomach are characterized by all except, okay, except, this is the except question. So it has high potassium, hydrogen potassium ATPase, rich in mitochondria, secrete hydrogen into the lumen of the canaliculi in exchange of potassium, synthesize and secrete chloride into the lumen of the canaliculi. Except, so just be critical thinking. Hydrogen potassium ATPase, it is the pump, okay, it is the type of active transport. So wherever there is the active transport, that cell must have high amount of mitochondria for generation of ATP. Okay, for generation of ATP. So the hydrogen potassium ATPase, parietal cells, it have high concentration of hydrogen potassium ATPase. It have high mitochondria. It secrete hydrogen into the lumen of the canaliculi in exchange of potassium, but it doesn't synthesize and secrete chloride into the lumen of the canaliculi. Okay, this is the correct answer. Fourth one. Okay, right. Just remember this, that wherever there is the pump, there is the high concentration of mitochondria, because pump requires the energy, right? Pump requires energy. Hey, don't bombard so much. Fourth one is the correct answer. Okay. Matlab incorrect answer. This is the incorrect answer. All are the true. 1, 2, and 3. They are the correct answer except fourth one. Okay. Because chlorides, they are not synthesized by the parietal cell. Okay. Parietal cells do not synthesize the chloride. Though it secretes chloride into the lumen. Okay. Though it secretes chloride into the lumen, it doesn't synthesize chloride. Gastric acid secretion by pyloric chief cells ceases when gastric contents have a pH of about how much? Yes, the correct, it is the easy one. It is 2. Okay, pH is 2, 2, 2, 2, 1 number is the correct answer. When the gastric contents becomes highly acidic, it begins to, the gastric cells begins to inhibit the secretion of the HCl. Okay, gastric secretion inhibits, right? Gastric secretion inhibits. Postprandial alkaline tide, it is caused by postprandial alkaline tide. It is caused by rise in bicarbonate in systemic blood pH following a meal. Okay, this one is the correct answer, right? Rise in bicarbonate. Whenever the bicarbonate is exchanged with chloride, bicarbonate goes into the blood. So the alkaline, that is why the postprandial alkaline tide is caused by the rise level of bicarbonate in the systemic blood. The mechanism which causes maximum gastric acid secretion is cholinergic receptor stimulation, H2 receptor stimulation, neurogenic stimulation, sodium potassium ATPase. So the correct answer is H2 receptor stimulation. Okay, correct answer is H2 receptor stimulation. Correct answer is H2 receptor stimulation. Right? Correct answer is H2 receptor stimulation. True about cephalic phase of gastric secretion. It is mediated by vagus. Mucus has no role to play. Mucus has no role to play. Leads to 100% of gastric secretion. Starts immediately after food enters the mouth. Which one is the correct answer? Vagus mediated, mucus has no role to play, leads to 100% of the gastric, food enters the mouth. The one, right? Mediated by vagus. Mediated by vagus. Please stop the animation. Then next question. Total gastrectomy may lead to all except protein indigestion, severe anemia, giddiness, okay, dizziness, pallor, and sweating after meal. Total gastrectomy may lead to all except, so you can speak. Which is the correct answer?
C.
Protein indigestion. Correct answer is protein indigestion. Right? Though there is no pepsinogen, the small intestinal secretion can digest the protein. Okay, right? Small intestinal secretion can digest the protein. So total gastrectomy may lead to all except, it may lead to severe anemia, giddiness, dizziness, pallor, and sweating after meal, except protein indigestion. Commonest cause of peptic ulcer. Commonest cause of peptic ulcer is infection with hypersecretion of gastric acid, disruption of mucosal bicarbonate barrier, intake of anti-inflammatory drugs.
Infection.
Calorie.
One होला sir.
Not one,
No,
not
Three. Three होला
But-
sir.
whenever the mucosal barrier is disrupted by any mechanism, okay, whenever mucosal barrier, gastric mucosal barrier is disrupted by any mechanism, that will cause the peptic ulcer. Okay, right? In this type of question, you will be confused. So during the H. pylori infection also there is peptic ulcer, but it is not the commonest cause. It is not the commonest cause. Okay, so by any mechanism, if there is the disruption of the gastric mucosal barrier, mucosal bicarbonate barrier, then that will lead to the ulcer. The stomach does not auto digest itself because, what is the correct answer? Gastric mucosa is protected by the mucus. Gastric
One
mucus
number.
are not digestible.
One.
Yes,
One number.
the correct answer is one number. Right? Gastric mucosa is protected by the thick layer of mucus. That is the correct answer. Pepsinogen is secreted by which cells? Parietal cells, oxyntic cells, chief cells, peptic cells,
Chief cells.
cells.
Chief cells.
Chief cells or peptic cells. Pepsinogen is secreted by chief cells. Pepsinogen is secreted by chief cells. Then bicarbonate ions from the parietal cells are discharged into the plasma in the exchange of which of the following ion?
Chloride.
That is the chloride. So today's topic is gastric motility. Right? I think you have understood about the previous lectures. If you have not understood, then we'll be discussing it later on. But for now, today we'll be starting the gastric motility. Gastric motility. So the types of gastric motility, there are mainly two types, or you can say three types of gastric motility. Okay. So one is the receptive relaxation, and another is the gastric peristalsis, and third one is the migrating motor complex. Okay, there are three types of the movement seen, right? Three types of the movement are seen. One is the receptive relaxation, second is the gastric peristalsis, and third one is the migrating motor complex, or it is also known as migrating myoelectric complex. Okay, migrating motor complex or migrating myoelectric complex. So receptive relaxation, it helps in the storage of food. Okay, by the time the food enters into the esophagus, there is the relaxation of the stomach following the meal. Okay, there is the relaxation of stomach following the meal. So this relaxation is mediated by nitric oxide and vasoactive intestinal polypeptide. Okay, this is the stomach. So this stomach begins to relax to accommodate the any volume of food that comes through the alimentary tract. Okay, that comes through the mouth. So the relaxation is mediated by the vasoactive intestinal polypeptide and nitric oxide. Okay, so receptive relaxation is for storage of food. It is to accommodate the food that we have ingested. Then there is the gastric peristalsis. Okay, gastric peristalsis. So gastric peristalsis, the function of the gastric peristalsis is mixing movement, right? It is the mixing movement. So it helps in grinding the food, it helps in mixing the stomach contents to the food, and it also helps in emptying of the stomach. Okay, gastric peristalsis, it helps in mixing the food, mixing the stomach juice with the food, it helps in grinding the food, and it also helps in emptying the stomach, right? So the cause or reason of the peristalsis is acetylcholine and substance P, which is secreted by retrograde neurons of the myenteric plexus. Okay, the cause of the peristalsis is due to acetylcholine and substance P, which is secreted by retrograde neurons of the myenteric plexus. Then third one is the migrating motor complex. Migrating motor complex. So migrating motor complex, it occurs at every 1.5 hour. That means at the regular interval of every 90 minutes, migrating motor complex is seen. Okay, migrating motor complex is seen. And the function of migrating motor complex is it helps in emptying the stomach and intestinal contents. Okay, it helps in emptying the stomach and intestinal contents so that the stomach can get itself prepared for the next meal. Okay, am I clear? Okay, so there are three types of the motility. One is the receptive relaxation, second is the gastric peristalsis, third one is the migrating motor complex. So receptive relaxation of the fundus is it is seen whenever the food is ingested. Okay, it is seen whenever food is ingested and it reaches to the esophagus. Once food reaches to the esophagus, there is the receptive relaxation of the fundus. The function of the receptive relaxation is to accommodate the volume of the food that we have ingested. Second is the gastric peristalsis. Gastric peristalsis, the function of the gastric peristalsis is it helps in grinding the food, it helps in mixing the food with the intestine, stomach contents. Okay, gastric juices, it helps in mixing the food with the stomach contents, and it helps in emptying of the stomach, right? And third one is the migrating motor complex, or it is also known as migrating myoelectric complex. Migrating motor complex, function of the migrating motor complex is it helps in sweeping the stomach and intestinal contents so that it can prepare for the next meal. Okay, it helps in sweeping the stomach and intestinal contents so that it can prepare for the next meal. So different hormones, okay, different hormones or neurotransmitters, they cause the receptive relaxation, and gastric peristalsis and migrating motor complex. Okay, so the hormone or the neurotransmitter that is responsible for receptive relaxation, okay, the hormone that is responsible for receptive relaxation is vasoactive intestinal polypeptide and nitric oxide. Okay, nitric oxide and vasoactive intestinal polypeptide, it causes receptive relaxation, right? Then gastric peristalsis is done by acetylcholine and substance P. Okay, gastric peristalsis is done by acetylcholine and substance P. And the migrating motor complex, it is due to hormone motilin. Okay, migrating motor complex is due to hormone motilin, motilin. So we will come to that later on, right? We'll come to that later on. So these are the three types of the movement. So when the meal is swallowed, the smooth muscles of the fundus body relax before the arrival of the food. The receptive relaxation is mediated by parasympathetic nerves. Okay, parasympathetic, vagus nerve. So vagus nerve activates the myenteric plexus. Myenteric plexus have two types of the neuron. One is the retrograde neuron that goes to the opposite side. Another is the anterograde neuron that goes to the forward side. Okay, so the anterograde neurons of the vagus nerve, myenteric plexus, they cause receptive relaxation by releasing the acetylcholine and by releasing the nitric oxide and vasoactive intestinal polypeptide. Okay, nitric oxide and vasoactive intestinal polypeptide mediate this relaxation. After the receptive relaxation, the stomach produces the peristaltic wave. Okay, after the receptive relaxation, stomach produces the peristalsis wave. Okay, peristaltic waves. Am I clear? Right? When the meal is swallowed, smooth muscles of the fundus and the body relax before the arrival of the food. When food is in the esophagus, there is the relaxation of the stomach. This relaxation of the stomach in response to ingested meal is known as receptive relaxation. Okay, right? Understand? So the receptive relaxation is mainly due to nitric oxide and vasoactive intestinal polypeptide. Once the receptive relaxation occurs, then the stomach produces the peristaltic waves. Okay, stomach produces the peristaltic waves. Ileum intestinal contents, it helps in emptying
Yes, sir.
not stomach contents, but it also helps in emptying the intestinal contents. Okay, we'll come to that later on. Right?
Okay, sir.
There are the phases of the MMC also. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I'm starting. Okay, so gastric motility. Right? So when the meal is swallowed, smooth muscles in the fundus they relax. So this is known as a receptive relaxation. Receptive relaxation is due to nitric oxide and vasoactive intestinal polypeptide. Okay, receptive relaxation is due to nitric oxide and vasoactive intestinal polypeptide. This nitric oxide and vasoactive intestinal polypeptide, they are secreted by the retrograde neurons of the myenteric plexus. Okay, retrograde neurons of the myenteric plexus releases the nitric oxide and vasoactive intestinal polypeptide. Right? Then after this, the stomach produces the peristaltic waves. After the food comes into the stomach, okay, after food arrives in the stomach, there is the origin of the peristaltic waves. Okay, peristaltic waves. So this is the size of the stomach. Okay, in the empty stomach, this is the size. Right? Once the food comes, the size of the stomach it becomes bigger and bigger. Okay, the size increases. Okay, and roughly it can accommodate about 1500 ml of the content. It can accommodate 1500 ml of the content. So in the empty stomach, in the empty stomach, the stomach is 50 ml. The size of the stomach is 50 ml, and as soon as we consume food, the size increases. So the peristaltic waves it begins at the body of the stomach. Okay, peristaltic waves it begins at the body of the stomach. The peristaltic wave it begins at the body of the stomach, and it is once the peristaltic waves they are produced, the first peristaltic waves it is not so much stronger. Okay, right? The peristaltic waves are originated, it helps in pushing the contents towards the antrum. Okay, it only produces the small force that proceeds the contents towards the antrum, and this contraction is too much weak. Okay, this contraction is very weak, and it doesn't it barely produces mixing of the luminal contents with the acid and pepsin. Okay, so once first peristaltic waves disappears, then second peristaltic waves appear. Okay, right? Once first peristaltic waves disappear, second peristaltic waves appear. That second peristaltic wave is more stronger and powerful. Okay, that second peristaltic wave is more stronger and powerful, which mixes the luminal contents and also closes the pyloric sphincter. Okay, right? And also closes the pyloric sphincter. So after receptive relaxation, peristaltic waves are arising. Okay, peristaltic waves it helps in the mixing of the food, it helps in the emptying the gastric content, but the stomach doesn't want to empty the gastric content until and unless the food they are properly mixed. Okay, food they are properly mixed. So there is the closure of the pyloric sphincter, and the peristaltic waves begins from the body, then it goes to the antrum. Once it goes to the antrum, there is already the closure of the pyloric sphincter, so the gastric contents moves backwards. Okay, gastric contents move backward, which is known as retropulsion. Okay, so here, okay, look at this figure. Once the receptive relaxation is over, the peristaltic waves begin. Okay, peristaltic wave begins, and the peristaltic wave causes the contraction of the stomach. So these peristaltic waves forces the stomach contents towards the antrum. Okay, it forces the stomach contents towards the antrum. Once the stomach contents, they goes towards the pylorus, the pyloric sphincter closes. Okay, pyloric sphincter closes, and there is the backward flow of the stomach contents towards the body again. This is known as retropulsion. Okay, retropulsion. Anteversion and retropulsion. Anteversion means going towards the forward direction, towards the pylorus. Okay, retroversion means from antrum or pylorus back to the body. That is the retropulsion. So first peristaltic waves that is generated, that is not so much strong. Okay, the first peristaltic wave that is generated, the first peristaltic waves that is generated, that is not so much strong. Okay, that is not so much strong, and it eventually dies before it reaches to the sphincter. Once the first peristaltic wave dies, the second peristaltic waves appear, and that second peristaltic wave is more stronger. Okay, second peristaltic wave is stronger, and it second peristaltic wave, it helps in proper mixing of the food with the gastrointestinal contents, as well as it helps in preventing the entry of the chyme. Okay, it helps in preventing the entry of the food into the duodenum. Okay, food cannot be entered into the duodenum because it is not properly digested, it is not properly churned. Okay, it is not properly broken into the small pieces. So for that, there is the movement from the fundus and body to the antrum, then from antrum back to the fundus and body. Okay, so this process keeps on going on and on. Okay, this process keeps on going on and on until the food, they are not properly mixed. Okay, until the food are not properly mixed with this gastrointestinal contents. Okay, gastric contents, and until the food are not properly churned. Okay, not properly broken down into the small pieces, this peristaltic waves keeps on going and going. So whenever the sphincter is closed, the whenever sphincter is closed, and whenever the peristaltic waves are appearing regularly, the small amount of the chyme, they are expelled into the duodenum. Okay, small amount of the chyme, they are expelled into the duodenum. The enteral contents, they are forced backwards towards the body of the stomach. This backward motion of the chyme is called retropulsion, which generates the strong force, and it helps in disperse of the food and improving the mixing of the chyme. Okay, at the same time, the food particles, they will not go into the esophagus because the lower esophageal sphincter, they remains closed, so it prevents the regurgitation of the food back to the stomach, back to the esophagus. Okay, so there is the closure at the pyloric end, there is the closure at the pyloric end, there is the closure at the esophageal end. Okay, both ends are, both of the ends are sealed. Okay, in the pyloric part also, in the pylorus also, there is the closure. In the esophagus also, there is the closure. Okay, so the food particles, the food particles, they will go from the antral, they will go from the body to the antrum, then from back from the antrum to the body. So this will cause vigorous mixing of the stomach contents with the secretion of the gastric. Okay, secretions of the stomach. Right? Am I clear? Am I clear? So this one, right? So there is the peristaltic wave that is forcing towards the pylorus. Okay, each time it is going towards the pylorus, it secretes. Okay, the pyloric sphincter slightly opens, and the drop of the chyme, they will be going. Okay, drop by drop, the chyme is released from the stomach to the duodenum. Okay, drop by drop, the chyme is released from stomach to the duodenum. So peristaltic waves are occurring, it is contracting the stomach. Okay, it is contracting the stomach, and it is moving the contents towards the pylorus, but the pyloric sphincter is closed, so there is the retropulsion of the food. Okay, there is the retropulsion of the food back towards the fundus and body of the stomach. So this process causes vigorous mixing of the food, and it helps in mixing the food with the gastrointestinal contents, and it also helps in churning of the food. It helps in making the smaller pieces of the food particles. Okay, it also helps in making the smaller pieces of the food particles. So this is right. So there is the pyloric closing, and there is the dispersal of the food. Okay, there is the retropulsion of the food. Right, there is the retropulsion of the food. So this is the antral contraction. There is some food particles here. Once antral contraction is there, the food particles, they become dispersed. Okay, they all become dispersed. So this dispersal will lead to the proper mixing and grinding of the food with the stomach contents. Okay, right? Am I clear? This is antiversion retropulsion. Okay, retropulsion, it helps in mixing and grinding the stomach contents with the gastric juice. Okay, right? So this process eventually helps in reduction in the particle size. Okay, so this retropulsion, antiversion and retropulsion, it eventually causes the reduction in the size of the particle. Right? All the substances, all the food that we have consumed, that is not properly broken down into the smaller pieces by our teeth alone. Okay, by our teeth alone, they are not properly broken down into pieces. Right? So in the stomach also, there is the proper reduction in the size of the particle. Okay, the size of the particles, they become smaller and smaller. Right? There are big particles, all the big particles, they become smaller and smaller, and only the smaller size particle, they can enter through the pyloric sphincter. Okay, large particles, they cannot pass through the pyloric sphincter. Size less than 0.3 mm, they go through the pyloric sphincter. Right? Am I clear? So look at this figure again. Aida, look at this figure again. So the food has entered into the esophagus. Once the presence of the food in the esophagus, it will cause receptive relaxation of the stomach. Okay, it will cause receptive relaxation of the stomach. So receptive relaxation is due to vasoactive intestinal polypeptide and nitric oxide. Once receptive relaxation is over, the peristaltic waves occur. Okay, this A is the peristaltic wave. So this is the mild peristaltic wave. Okay, the mild peristaltic wave has occurred. So this mild peristaltic wave passes the contents towards the antrum or towards the pylorus, and it helps in closure of the pyloric sphincter. So this mild peristaltic wave is not able to churn the gastric contents. Okay, not able to digest the gastric contents. It is not able to break the stomach contents. So this eventually dies off. Okay, this first peristaltic wave eventually dies off. Then second peristaltic waves B occur. Okay, so this second peristaltic wave B, it is the stronger peristaltic wave. It is the stronger peristaltic wave. Okay, so it forces the stomach contents towards the antrum and towards the body in the both direction. It causes the squeezing of the gastric contents in the both direction, so that there is the proper mixing of the food. Once the B, okay, second peristaltic wave dies, then third peristaltic wave occurs. So this third peristaltic wave, it is more stronger, and it causes more churning of the food. So once there is more churning of the food, once the food particles are broken down into the smaller pieces, they will eventually leave through the pyloric sphincter. Pyloric sphincters will open, and food passes into the food passes into the first part of the duodenum. Okay, and ultimately this peristaltic waves, they are continuously generated over and over again. Okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Okay, like this, it will go on continuing, and it will go on churning the food into the smaller pieces. And by the 3 or 4 hours time, look at the last figure. By the 3 or 4 hours time, the stomach contents, they are almost empty. Okay, the stomach contents, they become almost empty. So look at this figure. The pyloric canal or the pyloric sphincter is closed. There are the peristaltic waves. Okay, peristaltic waves are there, but this peristaltic waves doesn't help, doesn't causes passage of the food until the food particles, they are liquid. Okay, solid food particles, they remain into the stomach. Liquid food particles, they will go into the first part of the duodenum. Okay, drop by drop, you have to remember this. Drop by drop, the chyme is released into the first part of the duodenum. Okay, drop by drop, liquid particles, they are released into the first part of the duodenum. Drop by drop. Okay, if the foods are solid, then they will remain into the stomach, and the peristaltic waves will be occurring there until the solid food particles, they are broken down into the smaller pieces. So what is responsible for producing gastric peristaltic waves? So peristaltic rhythm is generated by the pacemaker cells in the longitudinal smooth muscle layer. Okay, pacemaker cells, that is the interstitial cells of Kajal. Okay, interstitial cells of Kajal generate the peristaltic waves. So peristaltic waves, it is 3 per minute in the stomach. Okay, it is 3 per minute in the stomach. So these smooth muscles, that is the longitudinal smooth muscles, they generate the slow waves. Okay, basic electrical rhythm, right? They generate the spontaneous depolarization and repolarization cycles, which is known as basic electrical rhythm, right? So these slow waves, they are connected from one cell to another cell through the gap junction, right? There in the smooth muscles, there are the gap junctions, and through the gap junctions, the slow waves passes. And once these slow waves are going, okay, once these slow waves are going on and on, there is a spike potential. Okay, if these slow waves reach the threshold potential, then there is the spike potential, right? If these slow waves reach the threshold potential, then spike potential occurs, that is the action potential is generated, right? And the action potential, they are superimposed in the, they are superimposed in the slow waves. Okay, action potentials are superimposed in the slow waves, and the frequency of action potential in one slow wave, it may vary. Okay, in one slow wave, one spike potential may occur, or it may occur 1 to 10. Okay, about 1 to 10 spike potential occurs according to the stimulation of the stomach. Okay, according to the stimulus, 1 to 10 spike potential, right? According to the stimulus, 1 to 10 occurs, spike potential occurs. So this basic electrical rhythm, we have already discussed in the previous class also. It is the rhythmical fluctuation in the membrane potential. Okay, it is the rhythmical fluctuation in the membrane potential. The slow waves, they are originating again and again, like the SA node is generating the rhythm of the contraction. Okay, like SA node generates the rhythm of contraction, these flow waves, they are also the rhythmical fluctuation in the membrane potential. Okay, so the membrane potential, it fluctuates between the minus 65 and 45 millivolt, right? And it is initiated by the interstitial cells of Kajal. Okay, it is initiated by the interstitial cells of Kajal. It is increased by acetylcholine and it is decreased by the adrenaline. Okay, it is increased by acetylcholine and it is decreased by the adrenaline. And the interstitial cells of Kajal, they are present in the outer circular muscle layer near the myenteric plexus in the stomach. Okay, they are present in the outer circular muscle layer in the myenteric plexus in the stomach and the small intestine, whereas they are present in the, they are present in the submucosal layer. Okay, submucosal border in the colon, right? In the stomach and small intestine, they are present in outer circular muscle layer of the myenteric plexus, and in the colon, it is present in the circular muscle layer. Okay, this is also important for MCQs. This question has come. Okay, myenteric plexus is present in which layer of the stomach? Okay, this question has come previously. It has come previously. Yes, in the MCQs. This question has came in the MCQs. Okay, so myenteric plexus is present in the outer circular muscle layer in the stomach and small intestine. Right. So Yes, this one. So basic electrical rhythm is not seen in the esophagus and proximal stomach. It is in Guyton. It is written in Guyton. It is written 3. Right? In Ganong it is written 4. Okay. In MCQs this has also come. Basic electrical. The rate of basic electrical rhythm is 3 per minute in stomach, 5 per minute in stomach, 7 per minute in stomach, like that. It has come. Okay. So it is 3 or 4. You can either write 3 or 4. Right? 3 per minute in the stomach. It is 2 per minute, 12 per minute in the duodenum, and it is 8 per minute in the ileum. And in the colon, it is about 6. Right? In the colon, it is about 6. And in the colon, it is about 6. Right? So this is the slow wave. So this slow wave is the rhythmical fluctuation in the membrane potential. Okay, it is the rhythmical fluctuation in the membrane potential, which goes from -65 to -45 millivolt. Okay, this slow wave is mainly due to the sodium. Okay, this slow wave is mainly due to the influx of the sodium, and spike potential superimposed on the slow wave, it is due to the influx of the calcium. Okay, spike potential superimposed on the slow wave, it is due to the influx of the calcium and potassium. Okay, depolarizing portion of the slow wave is due to calcium. Repolarizing portion of the slow wave is due to potassium. Okay, so this slow wave, it may occur one or it may occur maximum. Right? Once threshold is reached, action potential occurs or spike potential occurs superimposed on the slow wave, and these spike potential, the frequency of spike potential, it may vary. Okay, the frequency of spike potential, it may vary. It may vary from 1 to 10. Okay, there may be one spike potential or there may be 10 spike potential. If there is one spike potential, then the frequency of contraction is low. Right? Frequency of contraction is low. If there is more spike potential, then the frequency of contraction is high. Force of contraction and frequency of contraction. Okay, the number of the spike potential determines the force of contraction and frequency of contraction. Right? If the spike potential is low, 1, then force of contraction and frequency of contraction is less. If the spike potential is more, then force of contraction is increased and the frequency of contraction is increased. So this spike potential, it is either increased or decreased by different hormones. Okay, if there is acetylcholine, it increases the number of spike potential. Right? Acetylcholine, it increases the number of spike potential, whereas epinephrine, it decreases the number of spike potential. That means we have already talked about the action of acetylcholine and epinephrine. Acetylcholine, it increases the gastrointestinal motility and secretion, whereas epinephrine, it decreases gastrointestinal motility and secretion. Okay, so that means if number of spike potential are increased, then it will increase the gastrointestinal motility and flow secretion. Okay, it will increase the gastrointestinal motility and secretion, whereas if there is epinephrine secretion, the gastrointestinal motility and flow secretion is decreased. Okay, so the number of spikes fire with each wave determine the strength of the muscle contraction. Okay, more the spikes, more strength is the contraction. Then frequency of contraction is also increased. Okay, number of spikes determines the strength of the contraction. It determines the frequency of the contraction and the force of the contraction, and the amount of gastric emptying is determined by neuronal and hormonal input. Then peristalsis. We have talked about the peristalsis. So peristalsis, this is also the important. Okay, the speed of peristalsis, it is asked in the MCQs. Right? Speed of peristalsis, it is asked in the MCQs, as well as it is asked in short answer questions also. Basic electrical rhythm, peristalsis, and migrating motor complex. These three questions have been asked in the short answer questions. Okay, so you have to remember this all. Right? So peristalsis, it is the speed is 2 to 25 centimeter per second. Okay, 2 to 25 centimeter per second. It is from the oral to aboral side. So whenever there is the mechanical stimulation, there is the stretch in the mucosa. These stretch causes the release of the serotonin. Okay, these stretch causes the release of the serotonin. Okay, so once serotonin is released, it will activate the enteric nervous plexus. Okay, So myenteric plexus, it will activate the myenteric plexus. So myenteric plexus have the retrograde neurons that is going backwards, and it have the anterograde neurons that is going forward. So the retrograde neurons, they will cause the release of acetylcholine and substance P behind the bolus, and the vasoactive intestinal polypeptide and nitric oxide, it will cause relaxation in the aboral side. Okay, towards the oral side there is the contraction, and towards the aboral side there is the relaxation. The contraction in the oral side is due to acetylcholine and substance P. Relaxation in the aboral side, it is due to vasoactive intestinal polypeptide and nitric oxide. Okay, so there is the contraction towards the oral side and relaxation. Okay, there is the relaxation towards the aboral side. Then the migrating motor complex, right? So migrating motor complex remains quiescent for 90 minutes. Following this period, following 90 minutes of period, after 90 minutes, after regular 90 minutes, this wave is generated. Okay, this wave is generated. It is also known as migrating motor complex, migrating myoelectric complex, migrating motility complex. Okay, migrating motility complex, migrating myoelectric complex, or migrating motor complex. So it is also generated by the interstitial cells of Kajal. Okay, and it begins in the middle of the stomach, and then it moves towards the ileum with same velocity. Okay, with increasing velocity and force of contraction. Okay, migrating motor complex, it begins at the stomach, right? And the function of the migrating motor complex is it helps in emptying the stomach and intestine. Okay, it helps in emptying the stomach and intestine. It have the sweeping movement. Okay, it have the sweeping movement. Whatever the residue of the previous meals, they are there. It helps in sweeping. Okay, so the hormone responsible for the migrating motor complex is motilin. Okay, hormone responsible for migrating motor complex is motilin. So if we consume food, then migrating motor complex is abolished. Okay, if we consume food, migrating motor complex is abolished. Right? Migrating motor complex stops. So motor activity that migrate from the stomach to ileum in a regular 90 minutes interval is the migrating motor complex. Migrating motor complex, it helps in sweeping the stomach and intestinal contents. Okay, sweeping, right? Segmentation contraction helps in mixing. Peristalsis helps in propagation, and migrating motor complex helps in sweeping. That means it helps in making the empty stomach and intestinal contents. Okay, it helps in making the empty stomach and intestinal complex contents, so that it can stomach can prepare for the next meal. Okay, so during migrating motor complex, the spike is due to the influx of the calcium and efflux of the potassium. The speed, okay, this is also important. The speed of the MMC, it is 5 centimeter per minute. Okay, speed of peristalsis is 2 to 25 centimeter per minute, and the speed of the MMC, it is 5 centimeter per minute, and the hormone responsible for MMC is motilin. Okay, hormone responsible for MMC is motilin. When you ingest food, the motilin stops, and when motilin is not there, MMC also stops. Okay, ingestion of food stops migrating motor complex. So when we consume the drug, okay, when we consume the drug erythromycin, then it binds with the motilin receptor and it increases motility, right? So when we consume antibiotic, then there is the chance of diarrhea, right? So because it increases the motility, right? Because antibiotics, they bind with the motilin receptors and it increases the motility. So migrating motor complex, it has 3 phases. Okay, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Okay, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So in phase 1, there is no spike and there is no contraction. Okay, in phase 1, there is no spike and no contraction. In phase 2, there is irregular spike and irregular contraction. And in phase 3, there is regular spike and regular contraction. Okay, and it helps in moving the contents from the stomach to the distal ileum. Okay, right? So I think I have to stop by now. I have to stop. Hey, Raksha. So your question is here, right?
Okay, sir.
Propagation rate is 5 centimeter per minute. It occurs from the stomach. Okay, not it doesn't occurs in this empty stomach. Right? It helps in emptying the stomach with the contents. Right? So I have taken this figure from the Ganong. From where you have read that, Raksha? In which book?
Sir, Guyton में समझते लाए. Guyton.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So Guyton is also good, but I generally prefer Ganong because Guyton is just it is there is no one to review that. Right? Guyton, there is no one to review that. It is I think it is not so much updated. In the Ganong, there are in the Ganong is based on the research that is published. Right? It is based on the facts.
Okay, sir.
Guyton has done most of the experiments in the dogs, animals, and I think that is not so much preferable for you. Right? If
Okay,
you
sir.
write the answer of the Gannon, then most of the teachers will appreciate that. Right?
Okay,
Most
sir.
of the teachers will appreciate that because most of the teachers they mainly follow the Gannon. The new generation teachers they mainly follow the Gannon. The old age teachers they follow the Guyton. They do not want to go here and there except Guyton. So please try to follow the Gannon. If
Okay,
you
sir.
write that answer also, it will not be the incorrect answer. Okay. If you write that answer also, it won't be the incorrect. But if you follow Gannon, it will be preferable, in my opinion. Okay.
Okay,
I
sir.
want that is incorrect answer that is written in the Guyton. Then that is not incorrect, but I suggest you to prefer Canon. Right?
Okay, sir.
So the meeting is about to be over. So I'd like to thank you all for participating in the class. If you have any
Thank you,
questions,
sir.
we'll be talking it later on. Okay. Thank you all of you. I'm ending the meeting. Okay. Thank you all of you. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.